Welcome. I'm really excited to present to you today edge-to-edge quilting using the automation. It's Quilt Motion and QCT 5. The Quilt Motion side is the hardware side, was the physical parts that you will put on your frame and your machine, and the QCT is the software side. So it's a combo, and I really love our automation because we have made it from the ground up. We haven't used anybody else's software, and the first thing I want to talk to you about is now that I've got my quilt attached to my frame and see it's nice and smooth, I haven't tacked it down yet, but I want to talk about the pre-quilting checklist and make sure that we're not missing any steps to make our quilting experience that much better. Let's start out at the very top. It says gather all your materials. So notice right here I have all my materials that I will need for this session. Now that I've gathered all my materials, we want to wipe off and clean off our tracks and your wheels. Now we want to check our cords, and we want to move back, and we want to make sure that all of our cords are plugged into where they're supposed to go. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to plug it in right now. And now I just want to make sure my encoders are both plugged in. So now I'm just going to move my machine front to back. I'm just checking my cords. And now I'm going to move down the frame and just kind of feel and make sure that I'm not catching anything. Now let's thread our machine. The threading the machine correctly is really important to great stitches. It's part of the tension. And so each of these guides lines up so it's supposed to connect correctly with the next guide and pull your thread down the right direction. So as I come from this post here and I want to set my thread on this side, not over here, but on this side, I'm going to bring it from behind and then wrap it around and go to the one underneath. So I'm threading it through the top hole first, wrapping it around and coming from the back to the front to the bottom hole. Okay, now that I've got it through the bottom hole, see how it's lined up? See, it's angled so that is going to match up with this little top guide up here. So I want to thread it through this guide here. All right, and so I want to pull on it because this is my first little tension disc, and I want to make sure that it's threaded between these discs. And if I have to pull them away to make sure, get your glasses on if you can't see it. It's really important that you make sure that it's threaded between those discs and pulled so the thread is pulled towards this screw right here. All right, and now we're going to thread the bottom one and pull it. Now, I'm going to take it in my fingers like this because I want to put it back behind this tension disc here, and I want to pull it, floss it towards me so I know that it's flossed through that disc and up and over. See how I took it up and over the spring and then back down on top of the U right here so it pushes down. Now I'm going to bring it underneath and then up, and I'm just going to pull it down to this guide here. Now, a lot of quilters when they're first starting out miss this little needle guide. It's really important because it lines the thread up in place right there by our needle. See how it lines it up with the hole with the eye of the needle? And I'm just going to pull on it. And I kind of check the tension before I pull it through here. And I'm going to check my needle and look at it and make sure that the eye is facing the front and the scarf is towards the back. I have to get my eyes down there, but I can thread it without my glasses. There we go. All right, and see how it's threaded? It's nice and straight. It looks really good. And sometimes I'll just put my finger right behind here. So now we've threaded our machine. You'll want to oil your machine. We suggest that you do it for every quilt. And then, like I said, if it's a bigger quilt, take it off to the side and oil it again. So we have cleaned the threader machine. So let's change the needle. Every project change your needle. Your needles become dull, just like the tires on your car. If you are quilting a quilt that has lots of little seams, you may have to change it several times. If you start getting thread that's breaking, change your needle first, okay? And then we're going to check our bobbin. So I'm going to pull it down here, check my bobbin tension, and I want to make sure it's turning clockwise. So to really give it a good test, and you can purchase a toe tension gauge. They're a little pricey, but I think you can do it just by feel. All right, when you lift it up, it should come out of the bobbin case and you should feel a slight tug. Some machines like a little tighter tension and others don't, so you'll get to know your machine and its quirks, and you want to make sure that the spring is in there and it's springing. Now when I put this in, I want my thread off to the side right here, and I'm going to hold it just like this, and I'm going to put it in, and I'm just going to kind of feel. Now when I put it in, I'm not going to hold it by the lever because that's going to lock it and it's not going to pop into place in the hook. So we just want to push on it and we want to hear that pop. Once you hear that pop, you're good to go. If you don't hear that pop, I say try it again till you hear it, okay? So now I kind of want to just test my tension. So I'm just going to come off here, off to the side, and I'm going to move my things out of the way. And I like to test my tension as I'm tacking down the edges of my quilt. So make sure you do it right here on the very edge, because we don't want to do it too far in where as it sews off the quilt, it's going to fold it over. I'm going to just bring my needle down and catch it. And I like to, as I'm moving along, I like to hold my hands like this to just kind of pull it. And I'm just going to move up. And see how close to the edge I'm tacking it down, just as close as possible. That's so that if it sews off, it's not going to fold back over. It may just a little bit, but this is the stuff I'm going to cut off, and it's going to be just fine. And I'm just checking my tension and getting a good feel. I'm going to come up to this corner here and start moving across and just kind of tack it down. And I like to hold it down just like this as I'm moving across and just get as close to the edge as possible. Now, if you don't like to use just a regular stitch, I'm going to show you what you can do rather than basting. Now, basting's great, but it's a little bit bigger stitch, and also it doesn't hold as well. And so if you want more of a basting stitch, all you'll do is change the SPI to a lower SPI. So we can go all the way down to 5 and then move across. And this is where manual mode would really come into play. So let's change it to manual and do a little slower. All right, here we go. And see how it's a bigger stitch as I'm moving across. And this will easily come out if you want to cut your stitches. Okay, so I'm right there. Now I could cut those off very easily, or I could even go down to 20 and even make them a little bit bigger. Okay, let's show you what the baste does. All right, we want a short baste. So it's a little bit bigger stitch even on the short. So you really want to baste it down, and you'll want to go back and forth on this. Okay, here's another way, okay? This is another way that you can do it. So what you can do is your needle up, needle down, okay? So put your hand right here, and you're going to pull it around, and then you're going to do it. And that way you can set your own base stitch, and you can do it a little bit bigger. This is something Karla learned, so you can make your adjustment and do it any way you want. So there are a lot of ways that you can baste, and just use your needle up, needle down. And that way you set a little bit longer stitch. All right, so make sure you change it, your SPI back up in case you want it. So once you make a change, if you know that you're going to want it back, make those changes before you start moving. So let's talk about pulling our thread up from the bottom. Okay, so I'm pulling it forward to make a tail. This will make a tail on top and underneath. I'm going to move it back where I stopped, And this is where I'll use my needle up, needle down, or I could use the screen as well. And that pulls the bottom thread up and you can cut. And now we are ready to jump in and start setting up our design. All right, so let me just check my height of my foot. And this is, I'm going to unthread my needle to do it. You want your needle in the down position when you're checking the foot height. And see that? And I'm just gonna push my gauge underneath it just right, because I can slide it underneath. I can feel just a little bit of resistance, and so I know that the foot height is correct for as I'm going to start quilting. So I'm going to bring it back up and rethread it. I'm going to close my case there. Now the next one is check your belts, and we've already checked our belts. We're going to measure our top. You should have done that before you put it on the frame. So let's get started with automation. I have my stickers ready and available, and the size of my quilt, I'm just going to write it down. It was 42, but we're going to measure the width, but I know it was 84 long, okay, because I measured the length before I got it on. So I'm going to measure the width using the automation. So let's jump in here. All right, and this is a good sign. All my cords are plugged in correctly. So I'm gonna move my machine to the center, and the reason I'm doing that, I want it away from the edges, just in case it's too close to the sides and it gets caught and it can't move. So we're gonna say, okay, that's a good sign. And see how it's engaging and just checking. It's just checking its X and Y axis, and then it's going to update all the automation. All right, so now we're in the automation, and it says Quilter's Creative Touch 5. And if you want to know, it's the newest version, so it's 5.05.83. Every update, you'll want to update all of the laptops, tablets, desktops that you have the automation on to make sure that you're working on the current updated software. So let's jump in and let's set up our design, and we're going to go into pantographs because we're quilting an edge-to-edge design. So I'm going to tap on pantograph, I'm going to open up, and now we're going to set our safe area. So we don't want to set it too narrow, and we're not going to sew off our quilt because we're going to put the measurements of our quilt in. So I want you to have as big a safe area as possible. So I'm going to move it up and up off of here to the edge. Notice that I'm not totally off the quilt, but I have enough room, and I've moved it all the way back, and I'm going to do top left. Now that is the width. Now I want to move across my quilt, off the quilt top, and I want to pull it down towards me till it hits the back of the machine, and I want to tap on bottom right. Notice I didn't do it right according to the quilt top. Don't do that. You'll run into problems, and you'll have to keep resetting your safe area. So now that we've set my safe area, and as I come in, notice that my safe area was 59 inches, the width, and my total height is 14. That means I have to design my quilt because less than 14 inches in depth, okay? So we want to keep that in mind. So here I am. I can choose my panto mode. We're going to use Power Panto. So right here, there's a button that says Panto mode. If you are not using Power Panto and you want to try it, tap on Power mode and tap on Power Panto. We have easy and basic, but I'm not going through those today. It's just Power Panto. All right, so let's put my measurements in of my quilt, okay? So I'm going to come up here. Across the top are some real great tools, and I'm going to tap on my ruler. All right, I'm going to move my machine off to the left corner of my quilt top, and I'm going to tap on the left side. Then I'm going to move it all the way to the right. And it's 51. So I'll do it 52.5. This little red X is going to take me out. And so I'm going to make my total width 52.5. That'll let me sew off just a little bit, but not off the backing in the top, okay? And then I want to say okay, and my total height is 83. All right, so notice how my screen changed. Let's go pick our design. All right, so we want to go to continuous line patterns. Because I want to stagger it, I have to pick a design that has one single pattern. Let's use the popcorn. We'll use that one. And I know it'll sew quick. Okay, so it came in, it filled in my area. That's right here on my screen. It made my pattern height 5.53 inches. Now, if I wanted a little bigger, I could increase the sizing. And how you're going to do that is by tapping on the plus, and it'll make it bigger. There we go. That size there. And then I might want to pull the vertical spacing just out just a tad. And I just pulled them apart so they weren't so close together. And now let's stagger them. And notice that as I staggered them, it changed it so the top of this row here is kind of close to the bottom, so I might want to space it out just a little bit more, just to give it a much cleaner look. And play with it. This is your chance to really learn the software. Now, if you want to flip, you can go ahead and do that. And now they're going back and forth every other direction. So now I'm ready to jump in and go to my quilting interface screen. So I'm going to tap on Sew in Zones. Sewing in Zones lets it section off so you can quilt in sections, and then you don't have to put in the whole design quilted all at once. So that's what we're going to do. Place as a single pattern is for one single pantograph design. So if I was quilting sashing, that's what I would use. Okay, so it's asking if I want to save my design. Yes, you do. So let's say yes. Now I can tap on Enter and Save. Okay, so this is my first zone. It's pretty big. The top here is going to be cut off just a tad. That's okay, I don't mind, because we're going to sew off the edge here. So I am in center placement, so you could use this placement all the way down, but we're going to use 4-point placement because I want to show you that, and I haven't done a lot with it. So let me just change it, and how I'll do it is I'll go into Zone Manager. Now I haven't placed my design yet. It's okay. Right over here are my zone preferences. I can change my zone placement from center to 4-point. I can change my start position from the left to alternate, and I want it to be continuous because I'm sewing off the quilt. Make sure that your height and your width are okay, and we're going to say okay. And because my quilt size is different than my safe area, I'm good to go to place it. And notice that now I will have two placements. I will have an A placement and a B. So these are really important. These very first placements, it's not going to ask you to make these or do these. I'm just telling you from experience that you should do these placements, because if you get out of the top and you have to come back in and something's happened, then my goodness, you're going to run into all sorts of problems. All right, so I'm going to sew up and off. So we're going to do our first placement, and we're going to make sure that it's right here. And I'm going to tap on my single stitch to make my hole. That's my first placement. Now I want to leave it here, and I want to tap on the A. Okay? Okay, I'm going to move it just kind of straight across. Keep it in that position. And now I want to place my B placement. I want to see what it looks like. I want to see how far out. And notice that it didn't go up or down this way. It just kind of stretched it out. I know that I'm straight across, so now I can do my little single stitch and mark it. And that's my B placement. So that's how you do that. And then I'm just going to realign my needle and make sure that's nice. Now the C and D are optional. If you notice that your quilt starts getting a little irregular and coming into the sides, that's when you'll want to use your C and D. But for this first one, I'm not going to use it. So let's get started. So what I'm going to do, now that I've placed my first zone, I'm going to get everything off of here, and I'm going to move my machine over to where it's going to start quilting. Notice this little green circle? That's about where it's going to start quilting. So I'm going to kind of guesstimate. I'm not quite sure, but I'm going to be in the area. So I'm going to kind of guess that it's going to be right here, and I'm going to do my little single stitch. I'm going to bring my thread up, and now we're good to go to sew our first zone. And now we can tap on sew. It's going to engage, and then it's going to move to where it's actually supposed to start sewing. It's going to do a tie-off stitch. All right, and you're going to stand back as you're letting it quilt, because if you're leaning on it, it's going to distort it. So if I was leaning on the pole, wanting to see what it looked like, you're really going to distort your design. And just let it do its thing. It's a big design, and that's why it's one zone at a time. But that's okay. I just want you to get in the habit of setting it up and designing your quilts and using the correct placement method for your quilting. Now, if I'm quilting inside an area that has a border surrounding it, I want to use 4-point placement. So you decide which method works best for your quilt. Okay, so now we've finished quilting our first zone. Let me just pull my thread so I can make my tail. Then I'm going to move back up. I'm going to tap on my single stitch to pull my threads up and cut it, okay? Now that I've done that, I can tap on finished zone, and it says, have you completed sewing this zone? We can tap on yes. Now it's going to move to where we're going to mark our next area for quilting. So I'm going to get my stickers. Notice it's up and off onto my backing, so I'm just going to place my sticker underneath. Because it's sewing on the batting, if you don't want to use a sticker and you just want to use your pen and just mark it with a Sharpie or something, you can do that as well. And I'm going to do a single stitch. And now I'm going to allow it to move to where I'm going to mark my next placement, okay? So this is now going to be my A, and then over here will be my B. So I'm going to say next mark. Now, I can manually move it over that direction, or the software or the hardware will move it for me. You can choose. I'm going to move it over just to make it a little quicker. I don't know where the mark is supposed to be, but I'm just going to get it as close as possible, and I'm going to say okay. And now I can place my other one. So if you wanted it to move for you all the way across, you can do it. Now, just to save time, so I moved it part of the way. And then I'm going to do my single stitch. See, it says it's 2B, and then we are going to say continue. Because my C and D have not been placed, I'm going to kind of place them first, and then we want to say yes. Now my machine's going to move to where I'm going to roll my quilt. So it's going to move down this direction and up. And this is just an estimation. So if you're going to roll past it, that's fine. All right, so let's undo our quilt clips, and let's get ready to roll our quilt and advance to the next one. So make sure that you loosen all the pulls that are locked into place. And now we're just going to roll till this sticker is close or underneath this foot, okay? I'm going to roll it just a couple past. I want to do my backing first. Just make sure that you're rolling, smoothing it out. And then here's where you'll want to tack down your edges. Okay? And we're going to say, okay, okay. And then we're going to place it. But before I place it, I'm going to tack down my edges, because if it's sewing off, I don't want it to come back and have it fold over and get caught and sew the foot into place. So how you're going to do that is, because we're still locked into the automation, we're going to come into our toolbox and we're going to release our machine. Now don't tap on OK. This will allow me to now use the buttons on my machine, and I can pull up my thread and sew. Just sew right along the edge here. And just tack it down, and that's as far as I can go. I'm going to pull on my threads, give it a little tail, come back, and then cut. Make it really quick and really fast. All right, and now I'm just going to go do the other edge. And I want to cut those threads because I don't want them to get caught. And I'm just going to tack down this other edge before I place and put my quilt clips on. So just know I'm going to put my quilt clips on before I place it. And then I'm not going to touch it. I'm not going to make any more adjustments on it, because once it's placed, if you make any adjustments, you're going to mess up your design. Pull on it and just hurry and cut it. And it doesn't take much time to tack it down. It's a really important step that I learned the hard way. All right, so now I've got it all smoothed out, and if I want to tighten it just a little, I could do that. And now I'm just going to pick up my batting, because I don't want it on the floor the whole time, because it'll just get dirty. All right. This is the same process all the way down, and you quilters that quilt for a living, boy, you probably have this down. Kudos to you. Okay, so now I can hold and tap on OK, and the automation is going to reconnect. So now we can go and place our design. Now after I place that, I'm not going to make any adjustments. So I'm going to start with my A, which is over here. So I'm just going to move my machine over here, and I'm going to put my needle right over that hole, and then I'm going to tap on A. And see what it does? It moves down. Now I'm going to do B. If you make an adjustment to A after you've placed B, you need to place B again, because it will not know where it's placed. It loses its placement. So, and you'll do it in order. So if I wanted to place C, down here, say it's rolling in this way. So say it's rolling in, it's getting a little smaller, and I placed my C. See what it does to the design? It just realigns it. All right, make it nice and straight. There we go. And then D. Now again, if you made a change to B, then you'd have to do them all again. Just so you know, that's what it does. Okay, so now those are optional just because it doesn't know how the quilt's going to roll, so it gives you that opportunity to adjust the bottom half of your design. So now all we have to do is tap on, and my design's going to sew over here, start sewing up quilting over here. So I'm just going to move it over and out, and I will, and it's going the other direction, so I'm just going to do a single stitch right here, and we'll tap on sew. Now that's 4-point placement. So I really wanted to show you how to resume a sewing session the next day. I felt like it was really important for you to see how you resume, or what you need to do to stop for the day and then come in and start picking up from where you left off. What I did is I stopped my design, but I did mark my placements with my stickers. Now, if you're going to stop for the day, what I want you to do is mark on the sticker what placement they are. So this was my B placement, and it's 2, zone 2. So I want to put 2B, and this one will be 2A. Now, if you were going to continue down all day, you really wouldn't need to do 2A or 2B, but this will help me know that this is zone 2, and it's going to be the A placement. I'm not going to get confused. So I'm going to get out of this, and I'm going to say finished. So I'm going to come up here to my X. I'm going to get out of my quilting interface screen. And the only reason I can do this is because before I stopped for the day, I had these 2 placements. Then you can come back in. Right up here at the top, it's going to say resume sewing session. I'm going to tap on that. I'm going to go and find my saved design. So I'm going to tap on that, and then I'm going to open it. It's going to take you directly to your zone screen. Okay, so your zone selection is right over here to the left. I'm going to arrow down because I'm on zone 2. I'm going to still keep my 4-point placement, but I already have everything set up because it's just pulling it down to the next zone. And so I'm just going to say, okay. And it says, would you like help being guided? No, I don't need help because I already have my stickers and they're already marked. And I'm going to say no. Now, because I've already have my stickers, I can just move up to my to A and align it, my needle right over that hole, and then tap on my A. Then I can move over to my B. It's as easy as this to just jump right in and start sewing. Once you have those placements, and I don't have to do my C and D, and then I'll just move it over to where it's going to start sewing, and that's all I'm going to do. And I'm going to pull my bobbin and click on sew. That's all you need to do. Explore your options and have a lot of fun doing. I'm Karla Jerome, and thanks for joining me. I have so much more to show you with the automation and so many more techniques to show you as well. So join me every Tuesday with Tuesdays with Grace, and I look forward to seeing you. Bye-bye. For joining me. So there were a couple questions, not that many, so I'm just going to go through a couple of questions before we get in. You asked, what is the best size needle? Okay, the needle is determined by the thread you are using. So understand that usually on the thread guides, they will tell you what size needle to use. Our finesse thread, if you were using our finesse thread, it likes a size 18 needle. Now, experiment, you might want to try an 18, but if that leaves too big of a hole in some of your fine fabrics, you might want to go down to a 16. So just know and understand that you need to do a little research on all the threads that you use. So glide thread, which is another thread I like to use, it also likes a size 18 needle. These are both polyester threads. Most cotton threads will like a 16 needle, and so just check them out on the websites or where you're buying them. So okay, that being said, let me jump in and talk about the foot height gauges. So the foot height gauge is used with our machine, and yes, you can use a credit card, but if you need a foot height gauge, just call, and they're not that expensive and well worth it because they have a dual purpose. Okay, if you need help adjusting the little screw on your bobbin case, that foot height gauge is the best tool you can find to adjust that little screw, that tensioning screw on your bobbin case. I don't care what bobbin case you have, from a domestic machine to a mid to long arm machine, that foot height gauge is awesome to use for that. And not only does it give you a better adjustment on your foot height than a credit card or 4 pieces of paper, it just is a good little investment to make, okay? So call us and get that ordered if you don't have one. Then let's talk about from mid to long arm machines are a little different on how you adjust the foot height. Each machine manufacturer has their own way of doing things. I think ours is very simple and easy to do with that gauge and the screw on it. So check it out, find out in your instructions on how to adjust the foot height. If you are using what we call a domestic machine, that's like your piecing machine that you would piece all your quilts together, it has what we call a presser foot gauge, okay? That is the gauge or the little knob that you will turn or loosen to adjust the presser foot pressure on the quilt. So if you find that on like your Juki machine or whatever machine you are using to piece with, that as you're quilting, to use it for quilting, that foot is pressing down, kind of causing you a little wrinkles, and it's a little harder to move, then you will want to adjust that presser foot gauge to be a little looser so it's a little freer. Now Minky is a little different, and it needs to be adjusted with the foot height and the presser foot gauge a little differently. So do some experimenting. This is where you can jump in and learn. Don't just take somebody's word for it. Jump in and learn how to use it correctly and see what works best for you. This is called owning the procedure, okay? And we want you to own how you quilt and make it work the best way possible for you as a quilter. So Don't take my word for it. Jump in and own the procedure and try it out. Adjust that foot height when you're using the Minky and 2 layers of batting and work with it. But don't do it on your beautiful quilt that you've pieced with. Do a little sample piece and try it out there. And then you'll have a better understanding for each quilt. And then I would also say, write it down or put it someplace that you can reference back to, or email me and we'll put it in a guide, okay? So let me know. All right, so then the next thing is I wanted to just talk to you about a couple other things on the automation, but before we get to that, I had a couple of beautiful pictures on some quilts come in, and I don't want to save that. And so I wanted to show you this. So Anita sent me her first beautiful, stunning quilt that she did and quilted with her cutie frame. And I'm just absolutely impressed and amazed. And she said she was a little bit nervous at first, but once she got started, it's like those little quilt pheromones or hormones pop in, and you get so excited about what you're doing that all those cares and stresses in the world just leave you, and you're in your what we call your happy place. And it's so fitting that she put be happy, because she kind of was as she was quilting, and it was a lot of fun to see her excitement. And I have to say, I was in Australia these last 2 weeks, and oh my gosh, such impressive, beautiful quilters in Australia. I was in a place called Toowoomba and another place in Brisbane. And I have to tell you, these ladies and gentlemen and quilters of all ethnic groups just were amazing. They are absolutely talented and such sweet, loving people. I mean, I have my favorite quilt shows, but I have to say that was becoming one of my favorites all around. It was fun to be with Lizzie Allen, our ambassador, and Jackson Cook, another ambassador. I got to work with them for 2 weeks, and we worked together very well, and it was a lot of fun, bouncing ideas off of each other, and I learned a lot from sweet little Lizzie and Jackson. So thank you for allowing me to be there, and it was, like I said, it was just a lot of fun. And so my next picture is from Jeanette, and she was taking these vintage quilts and turning them into clothing, and she shared with us the cute little dress that she made, and that's a vintage quilt that she used. She just picks them up at the antique stores, and it is adorable. And how much fun she is having just creating things using these quilt tops. So she did an awesome job, and you should see the embroidery work on it and how she did it. It's just such a cute idea. And you're right, it is a very good idea to use those vintage quilts. So let's jump into the automation really quick, because I know you're getting tired of listening to Karla talk. So I just want to jump in, and I'm going to share my screen here with you. And so a couple of things. I got an email from a customer asking why the safe area wouldn't let her put in the size of her quilt. And I want to go in and show you one little thing that you need to do as you're setting up your automation. So it depends on the frame that you have. We have 2 different styles of frames here at the Grace Company. We have our hoop style frames, which allow you to quilt in zones and sections across the quilt and then down. Then we also have our rolling frames. Those are the big frames that you use. So I want you to click on Help right here, and we'll come over here and into Settings. You'll notice that in the Settings area, we have Quilting Frame. We need to pick the style of frame that you are using. It is preset to the rolling frame. So if you are using a hoop style frame, that it would be the Q-Zone Hoop Frame, or Q-Zone Hoop Frame Pro, or the Cutie Tabletop Fabric Frame. Those are all 3 hoop frames. You will change from the rolling frame, so you just click on Change here. And it says, when you change the frame style, the software will have to be restarted. And that's okay, because we need to change it. So you'll just say yes. and then you'll pick the hoop frame. And once you pick the hoop frame, it'll come up, and then you're going to click on OK down here at the bottom, and then it's going to restart. So once it's restarted, it's going to be set for the hoop frame settings. That way, it is going to allow you to put in your quilt size measurements. Okay, so I'm going to go get into my program here, and I just wanted to show you. I'm going to hit cancel. Now I'm going to set my safe area for what it was, okay? So when I go into pantograph, it's going to ask me, and I'm just going to say okay, and I'm going to say okay and okay. Because I'm in simulation mode, that's what I want to use. So now, because I have changed my frame style to the hoop frame, it's going to allow me to put in my total width as 80 inches and my total height as 80 inches. And I'm going to say okay. So here now in my Power Panto, it has allowed me to do that. So now I'm going to select my pattern, my design. Let's select the Aztec and say open. And I'm going to do some spacing. Okay, and then I'm going to stagger. Okay, so that's my quilt design. So now I'm going to sew in zones. It's going to ask you to save your pattern, your design. Yes, you will save it, okay? But I am not saving it. Okay, so notice that I have a big jump from one to the other. That is okay because it's a hoop frame style. Okay, and it's quilting from the left. Now I can go and change those settings right here in my zone manager. Notice how it's broken it up, and say yes, and I'm in from 4 point, but it's not going to allow me because in hoop frame it only allows you to quilt one direction. It's very important to keep its settings. So I just wanted you to see that, what it does right here, and there is your zone max that you can quilt, and then you're just going to say okay. But see how it's broken it up into sections and zones, and as I scroll through, notice that that was zone 1, zone 2, 3, 4, and all the way down your quilt. So several zones to this, but that's how it works, and the settings won't be too hard. So I'm just going to say okay. I'm going to click back on zone 1. And the only reason we have 2 rows is because it could squish it in and make it work with my safe area that I set. So I'll go in and mark my quilt, and I just want to mark it right here. Let's just do it right down here and say that's A, and then this is going to be B right here because it's right along the top, and see how it aligns itself going across your quilt. And if you want to just play with it and just see how it sews, then you just click on sew, say okay, and I'm just going to let it move across and sew. So it's going to start sewing right here and move across, and now there's going to be a move to next. This is where I tug on my threads and then click on move to next, and then it's just going to go move back over. And we're going to click on sew, and it's going to sew the rest of it. Then I get into my marking of my quilt. This is where your stickers come in and your pin, and you want to mark each of these placements. Really important. I cannot stress enough how important it is to mark your quilt correctly. Using those stickers is going to save you a lot of headache. And I know it takes a little extra time, but please use them. Don't just use the thread to mark it, thinking it's going to give you that nice secure. Use the stickers, use the tape, and it'll work really well for you going across and down your quilt. Really, that's it for today. And next week I've got some great things coming up. I'm going to show you pattern eclipse and a different way to quilt in sections, blocking out areas on it, on a quilt. So I'm really excited. Yes, this will be live. It won't be live later, but it'll be available for you to watch. Somebody asked if it's going to be available, and you can rewatch it at any time. Yes, we will have that available. Just very excited about showing you next week's program, and there's a lot more to come, so please email me with your questions. That's how I come up with several of these ideas to quilt and to show you how to quilt. And just have a good day, and I hope to have a little bit of video reel showing you some of the beautiful quilts from Australia. Just make sure that you email me and let me see your beautiful quilts, because it's such a wonderful addition to Tuesdays with Grace to see what you are working on and what you are doing and how you are quilting. Thank you, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.